Hello everyone. Today we are going to cover some grammar points from your Language Leader Pre-Intermediate book, Unit 11. For this lesson, you are going to need your Language Leader books, a notebook, a pencil, and a dictionary. There are two topics to cover today. The first one is present perfect tense with for and since, and our second topic is phrasal verbs. Let's start with present perfect tense. When do we use present perfect tense? This tense is used to talk about finished actions or situations in an unfinished period of time. Unfinished period of time is signaled by those time expressions such as today, so far, in the last 2 weeks, or up to now. If we look at some sample sentences, like the first one, to date, she has written 2 novels. In this sentence, we are emphasizing the completed or finished action, written 2 novels, but the time expression to date shows us that these actions happened in an unfinished period of time. Or if you look at the second sentence, they have constructed 5 skyscrapers in the last 2 years. The time expression in the last 2 years telling us that this action happened, this action finished or completed, but the time period is still unfinished or not completed. Present perfect tense is also used to talk about changes whose results can be observed now. So there will be a change in the past, but we will see the results or observe the results right now. Let's have a look at those sample sentences. The prices have become or have got really high. So there is a change in the prices, and I can see the result of this change right now. Now the prices are higher than the before. Or hurricanes have become more and more common recently. So in here, the hurricanes were common before, but now they have become more and more common. So there is a change in the frequency of the hurricanes. So in here, I would use present perfect tense. Thirdly, we would use present perfect tense to talk about experiences in our lives over a period of time. If we are talking about, or if you want to mention over a period of time, you have 2 options, or you have 2 things to use. These are for and since. How do we use them? Let's have a look at the sample sentences. I haven't called my parents for weeks. Or they have changed many flats since 2006. So they are both used with present perfect tense, but they have different rules to be used in a sentence. Let's start with for. We use for to give a period of time or the duration of the action. So after for, we are using a period of time. Let's have a look at those sentences. It hasn't rained for 3 months, or I have had this car for 5 years. So for 5 years or for 3 months gives us the answer of how long question. Okay? If you look at since is used to say when the situation begins. So we are giving the beginning point of an action. It means that after since, we have to use a specific time. If you look at the sentences, we would say it hasn't rained since January. So the situation of not raining started in January. Or the situation of having a car started in 2015. So this is the main difference between for and since. After for, you are giving the period of time. After since, you are giving the time that this situation began. How do we use present perfect tense with state verbs? If you are talking about situations that began in the past and still continuing, you can use present perfect tense. And with state verbs, we mean verbs like be, have, or know. So if you look at those sentences, Jane has known about it since March, or there has been no extreme heat for several years. So our main verbs are state verbs, and we use them with since and for in our sample sentences. Now we have a task here. There are some sentences and you need to fill in the blanks with either for or since. Now pause the video, do the exercises, and let's check the answers all together. Okay. We just need to write for or since in the blanks. The thing that you need to pay attention is the word or word phrase that we use after for and since. Let's have a look at the first sentence. Jack has been in Russia for Monday or since Monday. This is what we are trying to decide. So we are trying to decide if we are talking about the duration of something or the beginning point of something. So in the first sentence, we would say since Monday because the action started on Monday. So that is why we are using since. Number 2, Jane has been in Ireland since 3 days or for 3 days. We don't know the starting point, but we know the duration of this situation. So I would say for 3 days. Number 3, my aunt has lived in Australia since 15 years or for 15 years. I don't know when this action started, but I know how long my aunt has lived there. So I would say for 15 years. Number 4, Jennifer is in her office. She has been there since 7 o'clock or for 7 o'clock. So in here, I know that she was in her office at 7 o'clock. This is the starting point. So I would say since 7 o'clock, I'm giving the beginning point of the action or the situation. Number 5, India has been an independent country since 1947 or for 1947. 1947 is an exact year that an action or a situation started. So I would say since here. Number 6, nobody lives in those houses. They have been empty for many years or since many years. I don't know when this started, but I know the duration of this situation. That's why I would say for many years. And the last one, Michael has been ill since a long time or for a long time. I don't know when it started, but I know the duration. That is why I would say for a long time. He has been in hospital, and now I know the starting point. When was he in hospital? In October. So this is the starting point. That is why I would say since October. Okay? Let's go on. There is another situation that we use present perfect tense. Let's say that you are starting a conversation with someone, okay? And you would start asking questions about a person's experiences in the present perfect tense. But then, according to the flow of your conversation, you can use another tense to ask for more details, okay? But mostly, if the first answer is positive, the conversation continues with past simple tense. So I will talk about 2 alternatives how you can go on the conversation. Let's have a look at the conversation on your left-hand side. First person asks, have you ever been abroad? So this is someone's experiences that I'm asking. That is why I use present perfect tense. And the answer is yes, I have, twice. And now I'm going into details, and at this point, you can do this with using past simple tense, because from now on we know that something happened for sure and I'm asking for the details. That is why the conversation goes on like this. Where did you go? In past simple question form, and then we would say I went to New Zealand and Canada. Okay? But if after your first question that you ask with present perfect tense, you can of course use different tenses. Look at the conversation on your right hand side in the chart. Have you ever been to the US? Still, I started with perfect tense because I'm asking about someone's experiences. The answer is no, I haven't, but this time conversation goes on with different tenses. Depending on the flow of the conversation, we can use different tenses in our questions and answers. But if you are asking for more details for a specific time period, then you prefer past simple tense. Now, there is another task here. You need to make sentences using the present perfect tense with since or for. Okay, this is a writing activity. So pause the video, write the sentences, make the sentences, and then we will check all together. Okay, we have the subject, verb, and object and time expressions. In those sentences, we have to make them proper sentences. So let's start with the first one. I have been a painter since 1989. So we have the beginning point of the action, that is why I used since. And I'm still a painter, so I would say I have been a painter since 1989. Number 2, the light not worked Tuesday. So if you make this a sentence, you would say the light has not worked or hasn't worked since Tuesday. Number 3, the charity work with children 25 years, so they're probably still doing this. We would say the charity has worked with children for 25 years. In question 4, we are making a question, so we need to start with the auxiliary verb. We would say, have you heard from Mark since March? Number 5, this country has been a republic for a century. Number 6, they haven't driven the car for 3 days. Number 7, Peter has not cooked for a long time. 8, Professor Jones, but this is a question, there's a question mark at the end of, so we would say, has Professor Jones given any lessons since last week? And the last one, we would say, they haven't met or have not met Graham since last conference. Okay, this is how you would do this. In our second topic to cover was phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are combinations of a verb and one or two other words. These other words are often prepositions, and we are going to call these other words particles. Okay? So today's phrasal verbs are cut down, find out, give back, and throw away. But there are some other phrasal verbs that we are going to cover later. Okay? So we have the verb part in the chart, cut, find, give, and throw. And the particles are the prepositions like down, okay, or some other words like out, back, or away. So in here, you should know that phrasal verbs often have a different meaning from the verb on its own. This is what we mean. Cut has one meaning, but cut down has the meaning of to reduce, okay? Or find is a different verb on its own, but find out means discover, okay? So we have some sample sentences here. I really must cut down smoking. I really must reduce my smoking. This is, they have the same meaning. So in addition to these 4 phrasal verbs, now we are going to learn some more phrasal verbs. In this part, I want you to use your dictionaries to match the phrasal verbs with their definitions, okay? Now, pause the video, go to your dictionaries, check for the meanings of those phrasal verbs, and match them with their definitions. Then we will check the answers all together. Okay, for this exercise, this is the matching of the phrasal verbs with their definitions. While checking phrasal verbs, it is good to check the collocations that you are using those verbs, okay? For example, if you look at go into means spending time, money, or effort to get, make, or do something, okay? Or number 2, carry out. This is a very common phrasal verb, and it is generally used with carry out a survey, carry out an experiment, carry out research, okay? If you check those collocations, it will be easier for you to remember and do the tasks in writings or in grammar parts, okay? So set up means to start a company or an organization, and the synonym of this phrasal verb is to establish, so you can remember this more easily. Pick up means to lift something or someone, and the last one is write down. Write down is to write something on a piece of paper, so this is basically to take notes, okay? Now we will go on with another exercise. In this exercise, you have 2 boxes. In the first box, you have the verbs. In the second box, you have the particles. You need to combine those verbs with the correct particles and then use those phrasal verbs in the sentences. You should pay attention to the forms because you may need to change the forms if necessary, okay? Now, pause the video and do the exercise. Then we will check the answers all together. Now, in this exercise, you are matching the verbs with the particles, and then we are looking at the tense or other necessities in the sentences to make correct sentences. So first one is already done for us. A lot of thought goes into food packaging. Okay. Number 2, something research into global warming at the moment. So in here, I need to pay attention to the time expression at the moment. It shows me that this is present continuous tense. And then I need to find the meaningfully matching phrasal verb. That's why I would say they are carrying out or they are conducting research into global warming. Okay? Number 3, supermarkets should something the quantity of packaging. I know that grammatically after should, I need to use verb 1. So this is the grammar point that I need to consider. Now I will focus on the meaning. Supermarkets should do what? They should cut down the quantity of packaging that they use. They should reduce the quantity of, the amount of packaging. This is what this sentence means. Number 4, my friends want to something, a paper recycling business. So want to again requires an infinitive, and a paper recycling business, so probably my friends want to set up a business. Okay, this is another collocation. Number 5, can you blah blah some information about nuclear power for me? Another modal requires verb 1 in question form. So I would say, can you find out some information about nuclear power? Number 6, we something so much rubbish when we were younger. Now we recycle more. So we used to do something in the past when we were younger. So I would say we threw away. This is the past form of throw away. So this is how you would change the form into past tense. And something that litter, something, again, we don't want rubbish on the streets here. So pick that litter up, okay? Pick something up. And the last one is, I know something something, your phone number, but I cannot find it anywhere. So I took notes of your phone number. There must be something like this, I mean the meaning. So I would say, I know I wrote down your phone number, but I cannot find it anywhere. Okay? So first, check the grammar. It might make your job easier while matching, and then you need to focus on the meaning of those phrasal verbs. Okay? And another point with those phrasal verbs, I mean, beside their meanings, there are two types or two groups of phrasal verbs. Those verbs are divided into transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. Intransitive phrasal verbs is the first group, and those verbs do not need an object. Okay? Some examples for this group are go up, break down, grow up, or get up. There are many different phrasal verbs, and they are intransitives. Now you will understand what we mean. So in here, as we said, to go up is a phrasal verb, but it means to increase. Okay? When you say prices have been going up, I understand from the sentence what has been going up. Okay? I have the answer. Prices have been going up. Or my car broke down. When I ask the question, what broke down? My car broke down. So they don't need an object to have a complete meaning. Okay? And the second group is transitive phrasal verbs. This is the second group. And those verbs need an object, okay, to be meaningful and to be a complete sentence. So some transitive phrasal verbs are give out, throw away, put on, take off, okay? There are lots of phrasal verbs, so these are just some of them. So if you look at those sentences, the man was giving out something in the street. So what was the man giving out? I don't know. So this is not a complete sentence, I mean meaningfully. So we need an object here. If I say leaflets, the man was giving out leaflets in the street. So giving out is my verb and leaflets is my object. Okay, so now I know what the man was giving out in the street. Okay, so if you look at the second sentence, it is almost exactly the same sentence. I just changed the place of the object, okay, but the meaning is still the same. So if you are talking about a transitive phrasal verb, which means if you have an object, there are two scenarios or there are two ways to use your phrasal verb, okay? You can either use phrasal verb and then add the object, or you can divide the phrasal verb and put the object in between, okay? So both of them are correct, both of them are grammatical. There are two ways to use your transitive phrasal verbs, okay? So, for example, let's think about the phrasal verb take off. You can either use it take off something or take something off, okay? Because this is a transitive phrasal verb. If you want to use it in a sentence, you can say you should take off your shoes or you should take your shoes off. In those sentences, your shoes is the object. I can either use it after the phrasal verb directly, or I can put it in between the verb and the particle. Okay, this is the rule for transitive phrasal verbs. Now, we have an exercise here. we are going to correct the mistakes in these sentences. Now I want you to pause the video and try to find the mistakes and then correct them. We will check the answers all together. When you look at those sentences, you should focus on phrasal verbs, okay, how to use them. If there's an object or if there's not an object, if they use it in the correct place or not, okay, you need to consider everything. So are those your socks on the floor? Pick up them. And here, the problem is with pick up them part. We should use the object in between pick them up. Pick up what? Okay, I have to use an object here, so it should be in between pick them up. Second one, the price of petrol has been up going recently. The order is not correct here, so we should change it into has been going up. Okay, go is my main verb, up is my particle, so we should change the order. In question 3, can you give back me that book on recycling? So in here the problem is give back me, so we would say give me back. Okay, the object should be in between with those verbs. And number 4, the founders of IBM have upset a new business. Another order problem because the phrasal verb is set up, so we should change the order have set up. Last one, do you away throw all things? Away throw? No. What is the main verb? It should be like throw away. This is the correct phrasal verb form. Okay? And this is the end of our lesson. Go over the topics if you have any problems and do the exercises assigned on Google Docs. Have a nice day.